Hey guys, we're going to talk about the joiner today. The joiner is a machine that we use to get things flat, especially if it's got like a bow or a twist in it. We can kind of use this to flatten it out. We're going to use it to get boards straight and square. The biggest thing we use it for is if we're going to glue boards together. So we need these two boards to go together to get that glue joint, to get that straight. But we'll also use it to get a board straight if I need to, let's say I need to rip this board to 1.5 inches. Well, I want to start off with a straight board. If it has a bow in it, when I go to rip it, the rip's just going to follow that bow. So I'd use it to get that straight so then I could rip it. I can also use it to flatten my wood. This board here has a bow going this way. And so I can run that through to get it flat. And then when I run it through the surfacer, that'll get the other side parallel, and now it'll be flat. So we don't do this as much as the other two at all, but this is I do this a lot in my own personal stuff, like on the door, that sort of thing, where if I'm making a lot of door pieces, I want them to be straight. And so I'll run everything through the joiner and then I'll surface and sand. But let's go over some rules. Here they are. We're going to observe a 4-inch safety margin. So that means anytime our hand's going to be within 4 inches of the cutter head, we need to have a push stick, or we need to keep our hand out of that. I'm going to give you a few examples of that. This piece here, this is the one with the bow in it. So if I'm just going to try and get that bow out, it's okay for me to have I'm using a push block. I'm going to use this push pad. I can pass over this like that, because I'm using the push pad, but I wouldn't want my hand down there. That'd be crazy. This little guy here, if I'm joining this, obviously, if I'm running that through, I'm keeping my hand 4 inches away, 4 inches away, and then when I get to the end, or at some point, I'm gonna have to get on this with a push stick, and then bring this hand over and around to go through. As long as you can run a board through without your hand being in the 4 inches, it's okay. So this board is probably too short. By the time I get to here, I'm probably within my 4 inches. So I probably couldn't do that one without a push stick. This bigger one over here, I can run this through and just run this hand just right on top. It's not gonna hurt anything because it's out of that safety margin. Okay, 4 inches, need to remember that. The one thing I'll ask myself is, what other safety margins do I know? Do I know the radial arm saw safety margin? 6 inches, right? I just go down the list. Okay, number 2 is minimum stock length is 10 inches. And basically what that means is the shortest board I can run through here is 10 inches, because that board is gonna have to go here and then pass over the cutter head to get to there. And so if I have a board that's too short, it's not going to want to make that bridge. It's going to want to just dip down in there. I don't know if you remember my trophy story from general safety, but I learned that the hard way one time. Anyway, won't make that mistake again. So minimum stock length, shortest board we can run through there, 10 inches. Remember that. All right, the maximum cut on a face we can make is 1/16 of an inch. So if I was doing a face like this board, it's got a little bow. So if I was gonna try and flatten that out, doing the face, the most I can take off is 1/16 of an inch. But if I'm doing an edge like this, I can actually take off up to 1/8. Now, we normally just set it on 1/16 or maybe a hair over and call it good, but you need it. I think you might need to know that for the test. I think on the test it actually says what is the most you can take off on the joiner. So the most you can take off is 1/8 of an inch. Number 5, use a push block when joining a face. This is I'm going to call that my push block. Okay, number 6, do not allow your offhand to pass directly over the cutter head unless it's out of the safety margin height. So just for good practice, what I like to do when I'm running this thing, running my board through, I like to take this hand out and around, out and around. Okay, and then this hand, you're either going to use a push stick or you can run it through, but we just don't want to get in the habit of just letting this hand go right over that thing. Number 7, do not stand directly behind the machine when it's in use. So if you stand behind it, that's the potential for something to kick out. So that's where the danger is at. Which we need to kind of talk about this, because on the test it says, where should you stand? Well, to me, if this is the back where you shouldn't stand, that would kind of make this the front. So that would sort of make this the left side. So for the test, you need to know, stand to the left side of the joiner. But what you're really knowing is we don't stand behind it. Okay. Only adjust the infeed table settings, not the outfeed table. So we can adjust the height and how much this is taking off right here, and that's the infeed table. The outfeed table is set up to the height of the knife. So basically, as this board passes through the knife, then it goes right on that. And so if we adjust that, we can make it have a snipe or have a bow. It's just, we kind of try and set that up pretty precisely, and then we don't adjust it. But if you do notice that you're running your board through, and maybe when you start it, it's consistently butting up against that table, or when you go to put your two boards together, they're not real tight, and you feel like you did a real good job joining them, then let me know. And maybe this, I don't really like this lever location. I feel like it's you know, somebody might run into that, and then we might tweak that a little bit, and then it's off. So just let me know if you feel like it's not cutting up as good as you'd hoped. Okay, number 9, make sure the blade guard is always over the knives when the machine is running, and do not open the blade guard with your finger. Your board, when you get ready to run your board through, your board will kick that thing open. We don't want your hand opening this thing while it's running to get your board in. Okay, yeah, that's it. That's it. So I'm gonna run this a few times just so you can see, and then that'll be it. Oh, I'll just run this one on its edge. So whenever I can, if it does have a warp or a bow, I want to put the rainbow up. If I put the rainbow down, it's real hard to join it without it just following that same bow. Okay. So this stop button has a little twist. There's like an inside ring, and you twist that, and then it'll pop out. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn it on. Normally I'd turn the dust collector on, but it'll be alright for now. So when I'm running that, I'm not only making this part flat and smooth, but I also want this to be square. And so it's not going to be square unless I have it tight against this fence. This is going to make sure it's 90 degrees there. So I'm going to hold that with my hand, and I like to keep my hand planted on the table so it's not going to move in. It's just going to hold this thing tight against the fence. So then I'll run this through, and when I run out of room, then I'll bring this around. If you've got a long board, I really like to have somebody help hold it, mainly just as it comes out the outfeed table, if they can help hold it against the fence. They're not pulling it through, they're just kind of helping guide it. We can use this feather board and use it to help hold our board up. We can actually set one up on the outfeed side too, but that way we don't have to have our hand in there. It's still a good idea to make sure your board's being pushed down, because your board can actually creep up while you're pushing it, and it's still tight against the fence, but it's not down. I'll just run one. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to show you is doing one of those faces. So I'm going to put the rainbow side up again. I look at my grain too, so I want my grain to be going downhill if I can. As I run this through, I want my grain to be going downhill. That way, it's going to help it chip out less. Now, when we're doing something with a bow, we don't really want to put a bunch of pressure on the bow, or it's just going to spring back up after it's jointed. So we really just want it to be sitting there with the high sides down against the table, and then feed it through, and it's just going to shave off the high side there and the high side there. This doesn't have a very big bow, so it probably will cut the whole way, but we'll run it. That pretty much takes care of that.